Today, we are jumping right into a wildly dramatic, high-stakes recap of a World Cup clash that literally had absolutely everything. We're talking about the host nation, the United States, taking the pitch at a totally buzzing Los Angeles stadium to face off against Turkey. Now, on paper, you might think you know exactly how this match was going to play out, just based on the group standings, but hey, if there's one thing we know for sure about international football, it's that the beautiful game absolutely loves to make a mockery of our predictions, right? It'll give managers a few extra gray hairs in the process, too. Football just has this funny way of completely rewriting the script when you least expect it.
Okay, let's dive into this. We really need to frame this entire match around one massive, central, strategic dilemma faced by the USA manager, Mauricio Pochettino. When you're managing a squad in a massive tournament like this, every single choice is a calculated risk. So, do you play it safe, keep your starting 11 out there to maintain that winning momentum? Or do you roll the dice, rotate the squad, and protect your best assets for the tougher battles ahead? That exact question was hanging so heavily over Los Angeles Stadium before the first whistle even blew.
To really get why this game unfolded the way it did, we have to look at these wildly asymmetrical stakes. It's actually fascinating. For the USA, the pressure was kind of off in one sense. Their place in the round of 32 was already safely secured, so their primary goal totally shifted toward protecting the squad. But then, on the other side, you've got Turkey. They were already eliminated. They had absolutely nothing to lose, and frankly, everything to prove. They stepped onto that pitch purely for pride, completely refusing to just quietly exit the tournament. This massive contrast in motivation, that is the absolute engine that drove this incredible match.
Act 1, Pochettino's big roster gamble. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the manager's decision. 9. Pochettino introduced 9 changes to his starting lineup. I mean, that is a massive overhaul. The logic here was totally clear and calculated. He had to protect his players who were carrying yellow cards. You definitely don't want to risk losing your crucial starters right before the knockout stages, right? But making a roster rotation that heavy, it completely alters the team's chemistry out there on the field. Act 2, a frantic first half.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how wildly the momentum shifted in just the blink of an eye. Literally 3 minutes in, Pochettino's big gamble seemed to pay off instantly. A corner routine finds defender Auston Trusty, and he just powers home this close-range header. The home crowd goes absolutely wild. It was the perfect early shock. But, well, it didn't last long. Just 7 minutes later, at the 10-minute mark, the Turkish prodigy Arda Güler shows up with this world-class quality and just calmly levels the score. Suddenly, the visitors have all the energy. Turkey starts carving right through that heavily rotated American backline, and by the 31st minute, Barış Alper Yılmaz capitalizes on a wide-open defensive gap, slots home a beautiful finish, and puts Turkey up 2-1 right before the half. Just chaotic.
Act 3, the second half fight back. So down a goal at home, the U.S. steps out of the tunnel for the second half with this entirely renewed intensity. And they didn't waste any time. In the 49th minute, this brilliant flowing attacking sequence culminates with Sebastian Berhalter firing home an absolutely superb equalizer. Just like that, boom, it's 2-2. The gamble looks like it's back on track, the stadium is totally buzzing again, and the U.S. is fiercely hunting to lock down that perfect group stage record. For a host nation, riding an invincible wave of momentum into the knockouts is absolutely vital.
Knowing that a perfect record is right there for the taking, Pochettino turns to his bench in the 57th minute and calls the talisman himself, Christian Pulisic. Pulisic steps onto the pitch, immediately takes the captain's armband, and you can just feel the massive surge of energy he injects into the game. He's relentlessly driving the offense forward, coming agonizingly close to finding a go-ahead goal for the hosts. The tension in LA at this point, it was truly palpable.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Act 4, stoppage time heartbreak.
All right, this is where disaster strikes, and it unfolds in this painfully cascading sequence. Step 1. Because of all that earlier rotation and those tactical tweaks, the USA is entirely out of substitutions. Which leads to Step 2. Goal scorer Auston Trusty goes down hard with a severe ankle injury. He just cannot continue, and that brings us to the devastating consequence in Step 3. The Americans are essentially forced to play the final chaotic minutes of this incredibly tight match down to 10 men. They're totally trapped, incredibly vulnerable, and really just desperately trying to survive until the final whistle.
And then we reach the 98th minute. Literally the last kick of the entire game, Turkey executes this absolutely ruthless final counterattack against the totally exhausted 10-man U.S. squad. A long cross sails all the way to the far post and finds Kaan Ayhan.
He fires off a quick snapshot that slips right past American goalkeeper Matt Turner. The ball is just sitting there loose, and Kaan Ayhan is right there to poke it over the line from point-blank range. In a fraction of a second, that roaring, buzzing Los Angeles crowd is completely, utterly silenced. No way.
So the crucial point is this final result right here. Turkey 3, USA 2. For Turkey, wow, what a dramatic, hard-fought victory. It was this really bittersweet redemption to proudly close out their World Cup campaign, especially considering they were already out. They played with incredible heart and capitalized perfectly on those American structural vulnerabilities. But for the United States, man, it's a stinging defeat right on home soil. It's just a brutal, stark reminder of the razor-thin margins in tournament football.
Which brings us to our ultimate question as we wrap up. Look, the USA had their knockout spot secured. And sure, they successfully protected their players on yellow cards. But they lost that coveted perfect record, and they suffered a really severe injury to Auston Trusty. So as the United States prepares to face Bosnia and Herzegovina in their crucial round of 32 matchup, will the psychological and physical toll of this heavily rotated loss linger? Did Pochettino's massive gamble ultimately cost them more than it actually saved? That is exactly what we are going to be watching for. Thanks so much for joining me today.